congratulations. It is the glorious summer of 1861. A wave of patriotic fervor has swept the nation, and you, caught up in the romance of saving the Union or defending your homeland, have just enlisted. The good news: you've been promised adventure, glory, and a chance to be a part of history. The bad news: you've just traded your comfortable farm life for a scratchy wool suit that appears to be actively trying to saw you in half. A diet that will make you nostalgic for dirt, and a 90% chance of dying from something deeply unglamorous, like diarrhea. Welcome to the American Civil War, the nation's most tragic and surprisingly hilarious camping trip from hell. Before we descend into this particular symphony of misplaced optimism and systemic incompetence, perhaps take a moment to hit subscribe if you enjoy falling asleep to the soothing sounds of historical catastrophe. Drop a comment with where you are and what time it is. It's always a morbid curiosity to see who's awake at 2 in the morning, contemplating the realities of 19th century battlefield medicine. Now dim your lights. Find a position that doesn't involve sleeping on cold, damp ground with a rock for a pillow, and let's begin our journey. Fair warning: by minute 5, you will develop a deep and personal appreciation for socks. By minute 10, you will view your toothbrush as a sacred artifact. And by minute 20, you will understand that the deadliest weapon in the Civil War wasn't the cannon. It was the cook. But we'll get there gently. Very, very gently. Let's begin with the moment you signed up. You're standing in your small town square, listening to a politician with a magnificent mustache and a tenuous grasp on reality. He's talking about honor, duty, and a swift, glorious victory. The war will be over by Christmas, he booms, a phrase that will go on to become one of history's greatest punchlines. You and your friends, filled with youthful ignorance and bad haircuts, cheer wildly. You envision yourselves marching triumphantly through enemy territory, being greeted as heroes, and returning home in a few months with exciting stories to tell. What you don't envision is the reality of enlistment. The first thing you do is sign a piece of paper, effectively turning yourself into government property for the next 3 years. Then you're issued your uniform. And this is your first introduction to the central theme of the war: glorious theory versus soul-crushing reality. In theory, you're supposed to get a smart, well-fitting uniform of dark blue if you're a Union soldier, or a distinguished gray if you're a Confederate. In reality, you're handed a pile of ill-fitting wool that appears to have been sewn together by angry squirrels in the dark. The wool is not soft. It is a coarse, heavy, and unbelievably itchy material that will chafe your skin raw in places you didn't know you had. In the summer, it transforms into a personal sauna, trapping heat and sweat until you are essentially a walking human stew. In the winter, it gets wet and stays wet, clinging to you with the cold, damp embrace of a swamp monster. But the real genius of its design is the color. Your Union blue uniform is, in fact, so dark that in the smoke and confusion of battle, it looks almost identical to the dark gray or butternut brown of the enemy's uniform. Congratulations! You've been dressed in a way that maximizes both your discomfort and the chances of being shot by your own side. And your shoes. Oh, your shoes. They are made of cheap leather that has been hastily stitched together. They are not made for your specific feet. They are not left or right. They are two identical, vaguely foot-shaped leather boxes that you are expected to break in by marching 20 miles a day. Your feet will go through a dramatic and painful evolution, from soft and civilian to a landscape of blisters, to a single, giant, all-encompassing blister, and finally, to two calloused, unfeeling lumps of leather at the end of your legs that have forgotten what comfort ever felt like. Now that you're dressed for misery, let's talk about your equipment. You are issued a rifle musket, a long, heavy, and surprisingly complicated piece of machinery. It is a muzzle loader, which means you have to load it from the front for every single shot. The process involves 9 separate, precise steps, which you are expected to perform flawlessly while people are actively trying to kill you. You tear open a paper cartridge with your teeth, pour the gunpowder down the barrel, ram the bullet home, place a percussion cap on the nipple, cock the hammer, aim, and fire. A well-trained soldier can do this 3 times a minute. You are not a well-trained soldier. You will probably spend most of your first battle fumbling with a ramrod and wondering if you can just throw the bullet at the enemy. The bullet itself is a technological marvel of destruction. It's called the Minie ball. It's a cone-shaped lead slug that is slightly smaller than the barrel, making it easy to load. When fired, the base of the bullet expands, gripping the rifling in the barrel, which sends it spinning through the air with incredible accuracy and range. It is a masterpiece of engineering. When this masterpiece hits human flesh, it does not make a neat little hole. It is a soft, heavy piece of lead. It flattens on impact, obliterates bone, and tumbles through the body, creating an exit wound the size of your fist. It is less a bullet and more a small, flying bowling pin of doom. You are now armed with a weapon of terrifying efficiency. The problem is, so is the other guy. But before you get to the battlefield, you must first survive the training camp. And this is where you will meet the war's most prolific killer, disease. You are now living in a crowded, hastily constructed city of tents with thousands of other young men, most of whom have never been away from their rural farms. They have brought with them not only their patriotic fervor, but also their regional germs. The camp, becomes a giant Petri dish. Measles, mumps, smallpox, and typhoid fever sweep through the ranks with terrifying speed. Your immune system, which has only ever dealt with the familiar bacteria of your own small town, is now engaged in a world war of its own against pathogens from every corner of the country. The sanitation, if we can call it that, is a joke. The latrines are simple open trenches, often located perilously close to the camp's water supply. Men relieve themselves wherever is convenient. Garbage is thrown into piles that attract swarms of flies. You are living in a city with no sewage system and no garbage collection. The smell is breathtaking. It is a complex, multi-layered aroma of unwashed bodies, human waste, rotting food, and mud. You don't get used to it. You just learn to breathe through your mouth and forget that air was ever a pleasant experience. And then there are the lice. They are not an occasional nuisance. They are a universal fact of life. They live in the seams of your wool uniform, in your hair, in your bedding. They are your constant, itching companions. The soldiers, with their characteristic gallows humor, don't call them lice. They call them bodyguards, seam squirrels, or blue-bellied skirmishers. You spend your evenings huddled around the campfire with your comrades, not telling heroic stories, but picking lice off each other's shirts, a ritual known as skirmishing. It is a bonding experience in a deeply unpleasant way, but the true heart of your daily suffering in camp is the food. The Civil War diet was a culinary disaster on an epic scale. Your primary source of sustenance will be a substance known to the soldiers as hardtack. Hardtack is essentially a biscuit made of flour, water, and salt, baked until it has the density and structural integrity of a brick. It is indestructible. It is immortal. Archaeologists have found perfectly preserved pieces of hardtack in shipwrecks, a century old. This is not a testament to its quality. It is a warning. You do not simply eat hardtack. You engage in a battle of wills with it. You can try to bite it directly, a decision that will likely result in a cracked tooth and a profound sense of regret. The more common method is to smash it with the butt of your rifle into smaller, more manageable chunks, and then soak it in coffee until it softens into a sludge that is merely disgusting, rather than actively hostile. Hardtack is often infested with weevils, small black insects that burrow into the biscuit. The soldiers, ever the optimists, did not see this as a problem. They called the weevils protein supplements or mobile seasoning. The common joke was that it was better to eat your hardtack in the dark, so you couldn't see what was crawling in it. Your other main food group is salt pork or salt beef. This is meat that has been preserved by being packed in barrels of salt. When you are issued your ration, it is a pale, greasy, and unbelievably salty piece of meat. It has to be soaked in water for hours to draw out enough salt to make it edible. Sometimes, the meat is so old that it has achieved a strange, iridescent green or blue color. The soldiers called this salt horse, and they joked that they could still see the brand marks on it. And that's it. That is your diet. Hardtack and salt horse. Day after day, week after week. There are no vegetables. There is no fruit. The result is not just soul-crushing boredom, but widespread malnutrition. Scurvy, a disease caused by a lack of vitamin C, is rampant. Your gums will bleed. Your teeth will loosen. Old wounds will reopen. You are slowly falling apart from the inside out. Not from enemy action, but from your own government's inability to provide you with a single piece of fruit. Congratulations, you've enlisted to fight for your country, and your country has rewarded you with a diet that would be considered a war crime today. You are now officially government property, and you're about to discover that your government has a very liberal policy regarding the depreciation of its assets. Let's talk about the daily routine of camp life. It is a masterclass in organized boredom. Your day begins before sunrise with the sound of a bugle or a drum, a sound you will quickly learn to hate with a passion normally reserved for tax collectors and toothaches. You fall out of your tent for roll call, standing in the cold, damp pre-dawn darkness, while a sergeant with a magnificent mustache and a deep-seated hatred for joy confirms that you have not died or deserted in the night. After roll call comes drill. Hours and hours of drill. You will march. You will turn. You will learn the complex, multi-step ballet of loading and firing your musket. You will practice forming lines of battle, columns of attack, and defensive squares. Your sergeant, a man who communicates primarily through creative insults, will scream at you for being too slow, too clumsy, for holding your rifle at the wrong angle, for breathing too loudly. This is not pointless. The drills are designed to turn you from an individual into a cog in a great human machine. They are designed to make your actions automatic, so that in the chaos and terror of battle, your body will know what to do even when your mind has dissolved into a puddle of pure fear. After drill comes the highlight of your morning, sick call. This is where any man feeling unwell can report to the surgeon's tent. It is a deeply unpopular activity. Most soldiers would rather suffer in silence than face the surgeon, a man whose primary medical instruments are a bottle of quinine, a box of mercury-laced laxatives known as blue mass, and a saw. The surgeon's job is not to cure you, but to determine if you are sick enough to be excused from duty, or if you are a malingerer, a shirker faking illness. The examination is brief and humiliating. The treatments are often worse than the disease. For most ailments, from a cough to a stomach ache, the prescription is the same: a massive dose of blue mass, which will induce a volcanic, multi-day bout of diarrhea. The theory is to purge the sickness from your system. The reality is that it leaves you weak, dehydrated, and deeply regretting your decision to seek medical attention. The rest of your day is a blur of camp chores. You are on wood-cutting detail, spending hours felling trees and splitting logs for the company cook fires. You are on latrine digging detail, a task as pleasant as it sounds. You are on guard duty, standing for hours in one spot, staring at nothing, fighting a losing battle against sleep and boredom. You spend your free time, what little there is of it, trying to make your miserable existence slightly less miserable. You write letters home on flimsy paper with a pencil nub. Your letters full of brave lies about the glorious life of a soldier, carefully omitting the parts about the lice, the diarrhea, and the profound, soul-crushing boredom. You play cards. You gamble away your meager pay, which is often months in arrears anyway. You read. Books and newspapers are a precious commodity, passed from hand to hand until they fall apart. You sing. The songs of the Civil War are a poignant mix of patriotic bravado, sentimental longing for home, and dark gallows humor. You sing about marching to glory, about your sweetheart waiting for you, and about the grim realities of a soldier's life. And you drink. When a sutler, a civilian merchant who follows the army, arrives in camp with a barrel of whiskey, it is a cause for celebration. The whiskey is terrible. It is often watered down, adulterated with turpentine or tobacco juice to give it a kick. But it is alcohol, and it offers a temporary escape from the misery of your existence. Fights break out. Men become maudlin and sentimental. But for a few hours, the crushing weight of your reality is lifted. This is your life for weeks, for months. A monotonous, grinding routine of drill, chores, and boredom, punctuated by moments of acute discomfort and disease. You are not a hero. You are not a warrior. You are a cog in a vast, inefficient machine, waiting for a letter from home, waiting for your pay, waiting for the food to get better, and most of all, waiting for the battle that you both dread and secretly long for, the event that will finally break the monotony and give some meaning to all this suffering. And then, one day, the order comes. The army is on the move. The waiting is over. You pack your meager belongings, your blanket, your tin cup, a spare pair of socks if you are a millionaire, and you join the great, shuffling column of men. And you march. You march for days, for weeks. You march on dusty roads in the summer that choke you with every step. You march on muddy roads in the spring that suck the shoes from your feet. You march in the rain, in the snow, in the scorching heat. You march until your feet are a bloody pulp. until your shoulders ache from the weight of your rifle and your haversack, until your mind is a numb, empty void focused on one thing, putting one foot in front of the other. This is the reality of a military campaign. It is not a series of glorious battles. It is 99% marching and 1% sheer, concentrated terror. You sleep on the cold, hard ground with no tent, using your haversack as a pillow. You eat what you can carry, more hardtack, more salt horse, and whatever you can forage from the surrounding countryside, which is a polite term for stealing from the farms you pass. You are always tired. You are always hungry. You are always dirty. And then you arrive, the day of the battle. You can hear it before you see it, a low, continuous rumble, like a distant thunderstorm that never ends. The sound of artillery. You march closer, and the sound gets louder, punctuated by the sharp crackle of musket fire. A sound like 1,000 carpenters ripping a giant sheet of canvas. You see the smoke, a thick, white-gray cloud that hangs over the fields and woods, obscuring everything. The smell hits you next, the sharp, sulfurous scent of burnt gunpowder. You are ordered to form a line of battle. You stand shoulder to shoulder with the men of your company in a long, two-deep line in an open field. The drills that you hated, that seemed so pointless in camp, now take over. Your body moves automatically. You load your rifle. You wait. Your heart is a frantic drum in your chest. Your mouth is dry. You are trying very hard not to vomit. Across the field, through the swirling smoke, you see them. Another long line of men, dressed in a different color, holding the same weapons. They are you. You are them. And in a few moments, you will try to kill each other. An officer on a horse shouts an order you can barely hear over the din. A bugle calls. Your line begins to move forward. A slow, deliberate walk across the open field. This is the part that modern minds cannot comprehend. The tactics of the Civil War were a holdover from the Napoleonic era, an era of smoothbore muskets with short ranges, but you are armed with a rifle musket, accurate to 500 yards. The result of this technological leap, combined with tactical stupidity, is industrial-scale slaughter. You are being ordered to walk slowly, in a tight formation, across an open field, directly into the concentrated fire of hundreds of rifles. It is not a battle. It is a suicide pact. The man next to you grunts and falls, a neat, round hole appearing in his forehead. He is dead before he hits the ground. Another man screams and clutches his stomach, a dark red stain spreading across his blue coat. The air is filled with the buzz of Minie balls, a sound the soldiers compared to angry bees. You see the enemy line now, a flickering row of fire and smoke. You raise your rifle, aim at the smoke, and fire. You have no idea if you hit anyone. You don't have time to think about it. You are already fumbling with your next cartridge, your fingers slick with sweat, your mind a blank slate of pure animal terror, your body performing the 9 steps of loading over and over again. This is what a Civil War battle is. It is not the heroic charges you read about. It is standing in a line in a field for hours, loading and firing, while the men around you are torn apart. It is noise, smoke, confusion, and fear. It is the constant, high-pitched scream of the wounded, the rebel yell, the shouted orders of officers you can't see. You do not fight for glory, or for the Union, or for freedom. You fight for the man standing next to you. You fight because to turn and run would be to expose your back to the enemy and to abandon your comrades. So you stand, you load, you fire, you watch your world dissolve into a red-tinged nightmare. Let's talk about what happens when the bullet finds you. It is not the clean, heroic wound you see in paintings. The soft, heavy Minie ball does catastrophic damage. It shatters bone into 1,000 pieces. It tears through muscle and organs, leaving a wide, ragged path of destruction. If it hits you in the head or the chest, your war is over. It is a quick, if brutal, end. But if it hits you in an arm or a leg, your ordeal is just beginning. The initial impact is a stunning sledgehammer blow. You might not even feel pain at first, just a strange, numb shock. You look down and see the ruin of your own body. The blood is a shocking, vibrant red against the dirt and the blue of your uniform. The pain arrives a few moments later, a white-hot, all-consuming fire that eclipses everything else. Your comrades will help you to the rear, to a place designated as the field hospital. The field hospital is not a place of healing. It is a place of organized butchery. It is often located in a commandeered barn or farmhouse, a place chosen for its size, not its sanitation. The floor is covered in straw, which quickly becomes soaked with blood. The air is thick with the smell of blood, sweat, and chloroform, and filled with the constant, agonizing screams of the wounded. This is your destination. You are laid on the ground in a line with dozens of other wounded men, waiting your turn. There is no triage as we know it. You simply wait. You watch the surgeons, their arms bare and covered in blood to the elbows. Their aprons are stiff with dried gore. They move from man to man, their faces grim masks of exhaustion. Their primary tool is the amputation saw. In the Civil War, if a Minie ball shattered a bone in a limb, the standard and only effective treatment was amputation. They had to remove the limb before gangrene set in. The speed of the surgeon was a point of pride. A good surgeon could remove a leg in under 10 minutes. You watch as the man ahead of you is lifted onto the operating table, a blood-soaked plank of wood laid over 2 barrels. He is given a rag soaked in chloroform to breathe from, a new and not entirely reliable form of anesthesia. He is held down by 4 strong assistants. The surgeon takes his saw. You look away, but you cannot escape the sound. A wet, grating noise, like a butcher cutting through bone. It is a sound that will haunt your dreams for the rest of your life. Then it is your turn. You are lifted onto the table. The chloroform rag is placed over your face. The world dissolves into a sweet, sickening haze. You wake up on a pile of straw in a corner of the barn. Your leg is gone. Your stump is wrapped in a simple bandage. You have survived the saw. Now you must survive the infection that will almost certainly follow. You are given a sip of water and a dose of opium to dull the pain. Congratulations. You are a veteran now, a hero of the Republic. You are also a 19-year-old amputee. Your life irrevocably shattered. You have survived your first 3 days as a soldier. The rest of your life will be spent dealing with the consequences. And if you were one of the lucky ones, one of the ones who wasn't hit, the battle eventually ends. One side retreats. The firing sputters and dies down. The silence that follows is more deafening than the noise. You are still standing. You are alive. You look around at the field. It is no longer a field. It is a landscape from hell. The ground is littered with the bodies of the dead and the writhing forms of the wounded. The smoke begins to clear, revealing the full, horrific scale of the slaughter. You look for your friends. Some are there, their faces black with powder, their eyes wide with the same shock and disbelief that you feel. Others are not. You will find them later, lying in the grass, their bodies twisted into unnatural shapes. The work is not over. You are now part of the burial detail. You collect the bodies of your comrades. You dig long, shallow trenches, and you lay them side by side. There are no individual graves, no coffins, no eulogies. There is only the grim, exhausting work of hiding the evidence of what just happened. You collect the identification tags, the letters, the personal effects, to be sent home to families who have just become widows and orphans. That night, you sit by the campfire. You are not the same person you were this morning. The boy who marched onto that field, full of patriotic songs and naive courage, is gone forever. In his place is a hollowed-out survivor, a boy who has seen the face of industrial warfare and been aged 100 years by it. You don't speak. No one does. There are no words for what you have just been through. You just sit and stare into the flames and try to forget the sounds, the smells, the sights. But you will never forget. You have survived. But you will carry the ghosts of this day with you for the rest of your life. Let's take a moment, a final pause. Look around your room. It is quiet. It is safe. The loudest sound is probably the hum of your refrigerator. You live in a world where disagreements are settled with words, or in courts, not with lines of men walking slowly towards each other across an open field. You live in a world where a broken bone is a treatable injury, not a potential death sentence. You live in a world of unimaginable, taken for granted peace and safety. This peace was purchased at a terrible price. The American Civil War was the nation's bloodiest conflict. Over 600,000 men died, more than in all other American wars combined. They died in the noise and terror of battle. They died in the quiet, agonizing misery of the hospitals. And most of all, they died in the camps, from the slow, relentless attrition of disease and malnutrition. They were not the marble statues you see in parks. They were boys, barely out of their teens, who were thrown into a meat grinder of a war that was far more brutal and far less glorious than any of them could have ever imagined. They were boys who missed their mothers, who dreamed of a decent meal, who were terrified, and who, for reasons of honor or duty, or simply because they were trapped, did their part. They fought, they suffered, and they died. And in doing so, they forged a new nation in the fires of their sacrifice. The United States that you live in today, a single, unified nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all, was born on those bloody fields and in those miserable camps. So as you drift off to sleep tonight, in your comfortable bed, in a country that is still grappling with the legacy of that terrible conflict, spare a thought for those soldiers, for the boy from Ohio who stood in a line at Antietam, and the boy from Georgia who stood opposite him, for the soldier who starved at Andersonville, and the one who froze at Elmira, for the surgeon who worked until he collapsed from exhaustion, and for the young man who woke up to find his leg gone. They are not just figures in a history book. They were real people. Their suffering was real, and their legacy is the world you inhabit. The fire is dying down now. The story is ending. Your eyes are heavy. The smoke-filled battlefields of the 1860s are fading into the peaceful darkness of your room. Everyone in this story has been dust for over a century and a half. But the questions they fought over, the sacrifices they made, and the nation they shaped are still with us. And with that thought, you can drift off to sleep, grateful for modern medicine, grateful for sanitation, grateful for the simple, profound luxury of living in a time and place where your greatest battles are not for your very survival. Good night. Sleep peacefully. You've earned it. You didn't have to survive a single day of the Civil War. You just had to listen to a story about it. And that is so much easier. Be grateful for easy. Sleep, dream, wake up in a nation at peace. The end.